behind this because they represent over 315,000 U.S. military veterans and retirees and their families too. So that's quite a sizable part of the Louisiana population. And we need to get to the bottom of this and any other issue that's discovered around Louisiana with the VA medical system.
As a veteran, how do things like this impact you?
It's absolutely atrocious. I've come out with a Freedom for Veterans plan to abolish the bureaucracy of the Veterans Administration, at least on the medical side, and shrink the bureaucracy for the rest of it to pure oversight and put it under the Department of Defense, and make disability decisions on active duty veterans on the day they're discharged so that they don't have to go through a bureaucratic process. We've just got to get to the bottom of this. And we have an all-volunteer force that continues to need volunteers to serve in our armed forces, and we have to keep these promises.
Real quick, is this, in your experience, is this just a singular case, or are there multiple cases, or have you heard anything about an ongoing situation here with
just standing here and talking to the folks that are in this small crowd that has shown up? I've heard stories from as far away as Jennings. I've heard rumors of stories in the New Orleans area of cases where these types of things might have occurred, yes.
deaths in, or just poor care, or I mean, are there
deaths, poor care that could result in deaths if not paid attention to? And as we know, that's a national problem with at least with scheduled operation. Thanks.
But when swimming, I would leave. She was calling my phone. And I told her, I said, well, Dr. May, I just left. I waited and I paged. Not one time did you come. I said, that is neglect. You know, it's neglect. It's really abusive to me. Knowing the situation in which my husband was in, she didn't think enough of me to come and tell me anything that comes in mind. To help me along the way to deal with this situation. It was like,
giving you
hi, nice to meet you. What's the pleasure? Love you. But she lives in Oregon. I'm from Oregon. I saw the chaplain, I saw a doctor, and I was a new one. I always thought that he aged her, and we waited, and we made plans, and he came back. So, she called me back and told me, back over there, every time he called me, I was like, whoa. She said, well, I'll see you the money. So you can sign this deal off and get this over to you. So she said the money. I have a copy of the money one. And when she sent it to the Don's Hallmark, Pineville, Louisiana, and it was
based around his doctor's practice.
yes.
And like you said, there were other doctors that you spoke with that were willing to help. Were you unable to transfer?
because he tolerated all the things. So this is what I was trying to do. And satisfy myself. We were supposed to look at another woman.
We're a group of concerned citizens here at the VA hospital because we're concerned at what has happened, has taken place with our veterans here in Louisiana. And we have with us today Colonel Rob Magnus, who's running for the U.S. Senate. We have Mr. Clay Grant, who's running for the Congress of the 5th District. We have Mr. Floyd Hamilton, who's the plaintiff in this case. We also have Ms. Johnson and Ms. Wade, family members of victims that have lost victims. So I'm going to yield to the floor and start off with Mr. Rob Magnus. Let him speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out today. This, in light of the recent events with the Veterans Administration system and the department, we think it's very, very important that we bring light to, especially Mr. Floyd Hamilton Sr.'s case, which may appear to be not recent, but this morning when I read the affidavits associated with the case, I agree with the two people from the Louisiana federal delegation that are asking for a special investigation on this case and this particular center. And in large, I'd like to call on the rest of the Louisiana federal delegation to come on board and request that special investigation because they represent more than 315,000 veterans and their families across the entire state, and we need their help to make sure that things are going correctly for our veterans and that the resources that our country has promised them and their families are getting to them. And it doesn't appear that that's the case today, so I'm proud to support Mr. Hamilton and the other folks in their endeavors to make sure that the truth is known, that there's transparency in our process, and that the resources, especially medical care, that have been promised to our veterans are being delivered in the highest quality manner to them and their families. Thank you all very much, and thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it. God bless you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I want you to speak, man.
That's the order we have. Mr. Clay Grant, he's running for Congress of the 5th District.
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to make sure that we point this out, that this is an American people issue. You know, this is something that we need to make sure that we get out to the masses. And just, like I say, once you've heard about what's going on in Arizona, you've heard it all over the country. This event, this case needs to be looked at. So please, whether it's the media, whoever, our state senators, congressmen, whoever, make sure we get this case brought to light and make sure that we can get something done and justice for these veterans.
I was told that Floyd was a troublemaker, and he's proved that excessively. I would not want to be on his bad side. Unfortunately, his being a troublemaker was right on the money. What happened to his father was egregious. It's un-American. He was just taken into a room, allowed to die. Didn't happen to die for 2 years because somebody saved him. He did get wounded. And there's other people in these cases that are in the same aspect. I've seen it. I've worked here. They don't tolerate excellence. They want this place runs for the employees, not for the patients. It's sick. It's nationwide. It needs to be addressed effectively by our government.
I'm Dr. Melba Holmes. I worked at the VA in 2006. I was a contract physician. The purpose of my coming was to replace a physician that had literally taken health leave because he was assaulted publicly by the doctor that's under the 25th that he had what we call an anoxic event, meaning the oxygen to his brain was disrupted, and it appeared that he had aspirated fluid, which is his saliva, and that was resulting in being extubated, having a tube removed from his throat while he was in the MICU. And that is the crux of the case, that the doctor that chose to do it is the one that has been the bane to so many veterans here at the VA. I worked with Mr. Hamilton III to advance this through the system administratively, and the VA, all the way up to Washington, D.C., has dropped the ball repeatedly. We did the required Form 95. When it got to Dallas, they assigned it to someone who was sent to Operation Freedom. So we lost that continuity. When it got reassigned, it went all the way to Washington, D.C., and the VA lawyer, Catherine Simpson, found a loophole that stopped it at Washington, D.C., and it was never investigated. And we've had that validated that it was never investigated. Catherine Simpson uncovered that Mr. Hamilton III had a medical power of attorney, not a durable power of attorney, and that loophole stopped the whole proceedings. So that's why it went to trial. So I've worked at the VA, I've had firsthand interaction with the doctor in question. My introduction to her, when they told me she was the one who would show me the ropes, she gave me her name and said, "I'm me." And that was her introduction. So that should give you an idea of the personality that we're dealing with. I cannot understand why the VA was so supportive. There have been a number of doctors. I am one that has been adversely affected because of my involvement against the VA and against Dr. Shirini Negi, I'll call her name. And there are several doctors that were discharged from the VA system when they spoke out against her. So I don't know what the situation is that the VA here in Alexandria protects her, but there are not just patient stories, there are colleagues and there are staff persons which could tell you the reputation that she has throughout the facility. So I'm here today to support Floyd. I've been on board for the last 8 years, and I think his case is solid, and it's time the public heard what's going on. Thank you.
My husband being a veteran for the United States, he's been treated at this facility. This is supposed to reassure them, is that this is their life and all their services for this country, and we got people that's going to just throw them away like they're nothing. I don't feel it's right, and something needs to be done. What are you going to do? Take care of our veterans? Or are you going to murder them? Or are you going to support them? Is this the things that we get for letting our loved ones go forth? And Ms. Negi, the nurse, she refused to go in the room. I asked her to come over and asked her to go in the room. She says, "No need to go in there. You need to sign papers and let him die, because he's almost dead." And said, it's nothing I can do. I'm not going to try to do it. And she refused to talk to me those times.
Yes, I said back in 2006, I've never met any of you guys. I'm more face-to-face to you all than I am to her. I've never seen her face-to-face. She made all these decisions. I stayed in this hospital after I got back here on Saturday morning at 9:30. Stayed till 7. The ICU personnel paged her all day long, and she never showed up. She's the doctor on call for the weekend, and never showed us the paper. Come to find out, this is what she had done at another hospital when she was on call, and when she put on the record, "Don't call me until they're dead." Okay? Now she's the doctor on call, but she's telling anyone who calls, "Don't call me until they're dead," and admitted this in court. So now you really get a picture of the kind of person we're dealing with. Now she told me when on the phone, well, he's 84 years old, he has lived a good life, why don't you just let him die? Now, having said that, are you really expecting for for someone to do something for your loved one, even on the phone. If I had told that to a federal officer, I think you done lived long enough, I think they would have every marshal in the country trying to catch you. So they feel that is a threat. And I felt that was a threat. I've had to pull guard duty on my father from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock the next day to keep her off of it. Even after filing a formal complaint, they've got a system over here. If 100 people came and filed a complaint to the patient advocate, if you don't say I want a written formal complaint, and I'm the only one out of 100 came and asked for a written one, he only had one complaint for that whole week. Because now you have to ask for certain things. That's what's in place by the administration, just like the list. So, but for her, when I left there on Saturday, come back on Sunday to see my father, he's not in ICU. I have to go look for him. They say he's somewhere on the 4th floor. Come to find out, he was the only one on the 4th floor. Unresponsive when they took him out of ICU, and here he's in a room with the oxygen thing wrapped around his neck, the cannula that's supposed to be in his nose, because nobody's there. I didn't even recognize him. I had to come back to the room to take a better look to see if it was my dad, and it was my dad. His jaws were so big and his stomach was so big trying to get oxygen. Now, all the secretions that he had to be suctioned every 5 to 10 minutes in ICU, now nobody has seen him for 5 hours. All those fluids are now in his lungs. So, and the chief of staff, Hollis Reed, gives me a letter saying my father did not suffer respiratory distress. After reviewing all the records, come to find out there was a document on 9/25 that revealed a CT scan showing my father has now suffered brain damage. This is dated 9/25/06. They didn't enter into the records until October the 3rd. Out of 400 medical records, here's the one that proves damages that the government and the VA and the U.S. Attorney John Broadwell, who by the way said, this is not the same Shirini Negi in the lawsuit. I'm talking about a Shirini Negi that was denied unanimously in Florida that lives in Chicago. A week later, the state of Florida sent me the copy of the application she had lied on with a picture on the front page. The court has never addressed that. He can lie and get away with it. And he's lying for it the whole time. I sent him a letter saying he's going to have to be responsible where his soul goes. He said, why you want to bring God into this? Because he needs it, okay? And this is what's been going on here. And in September will be 9 years, 24 hours a day, trying to not counter the lies, just for me to continue to tell the truth and have the evidence to tell the truth. And it's time that I'm glad to see people come to support this, because, like I said, this has never been a black and white issue. This has been, I didn't know any of the veterans. None of these families I knew. I was the only one fighting. Everybody was, the VA employees were sending them to me because they were intimidated to bring someone to me. This is an intimidating place. There was a gentleman called me last night that the doctors went to him and told him, if you didn't get off the lawsuit, you're going to have problems getting medical care. So he got off the lawsuit. And I told him I would continue to fight for it. Last night he told me, I'm ready to speak out. They removed this man's leg when they should have amputated a toe because the doctor said, let me just go on and get rid of you. That way I have to see you as many times. So they amputated his leg up to the knee when all they had to do is amputate a toe, and one doctor said, all they do is remove your toe. They removed half the leg. But this is the kind of stuff that goes on here because this place is so intimidating. That's why nobody, they'll talk after they retire, just like the people that's blowing the whistle. And you don't have any protection in the whistleblower. If I go on this ground now, every policeman comes out, and I'm a veteran. They call out every policeman. My son and I came here to serve a federal subpoena. They told me, well, you are definitely not going in the building 1. They had every policeman they could find to stop me from serving a federal subpoena. I had the law that stated you have to be 18 and not be a part of the suit. Had it in my hand, and they still refused me and wanted me to do something so they can try to do something else. I refused. Next day I filed a subpoena to the federal court, to the U.S. attorney. So it got done anyway. But this is kind of stuff that goes on here. If I had a camera and they know I'm coming in there, you'll watch every policeman that was over here. They're gonna come, because I told him those 3 guys that's coming across the campus, they coming to see me. He didn't believe me. Those 3 came, then 5 more came behind. But we got it done. But this is the kind of place that needs to be cleaned up. They're 30 years behind time. Back 5 years ago, they were throwing away records. They were not sterilizing the instruments. If that's not a problem, and nobody's addressed it, but yet still the same problem is going on everywhere, that means there's a problem. And I've been fighting the problem, but like I say, when the government puts a label on you, everybody else thinks you're crazy. The U.S. Attorney called me and asked me that I want to change my facts. Okay? I never heard of facts changing. Okay? Never heard the truth changing. But he wanted to call me and see if any of the people that was helping me wanted to change their facts. Maybe he's used to dealing with corruption. I'm not. And we don't need to stand for corruption. I showed the documents where the IG report lied about everything on my father's record. I was able to prove the truth against the IG. That's why the letter that is now existing to have the FBI investigate the IG instead of the wolf in the hen house, the IG itself. Because we need to get to the secret that they're holding. And the IG, if they came here and covered it up, what's to stop another IG? Even a peer review. Peer reviews to be done by people who have your same education and same credentials. A nurse came here and interviewed a doctor who can't even make medical decisions. But how in the world she's going to evaluate a doctor and say what she didn't do, what she didn't do? But we also know what she didn't, because I also have an incomplete application in my possession that was turned into the state of Virginia back in 2003, and they never even checked the application. Now they're claiming sovereignty because we sued a wrongful death against them. But you got a doctor from the state of Virginia. So if that's the case, I'm making an announcement. Anybody who want to go to Virginia, just turn in an incomplete application. Do not fill out line 7. It is not required. Because apparently it wasn't required by Dr. Negi, and she still has a license. And the federal government say, well, if she has a license now, that's good enough. I didn't know you could commit fraud and get something and call it legal. And that's what's been going on because I got the evidence. How in the world I got everything that she's done since she got kicked out of Florida in my possession, certified, and everybody thinks that these aren't good enough documents to get rid of them. Even a federal judge stated, I can't fire her, so go back to work. And there she is over here still working. And these are the people that we know of. But I know there are at least 4 more that I'm not at liberty to bring the name up, but there are at least 4 more that have complained, and their loved ones are dead too. Well, you put 7, these 7 with the other 4, and she's been here since 2004. Not properly licensed through VetPro. She said she was licensed through VetPro in 2004. Why is it in 2009, I've got documents where this VA credentialing department is saying we are looking at hiring Dr. Shirini Negi as a new employee. How is she a new employee? She's been working for you for 5 years. I got those documents. So how in the world I'm lying, but the documents are lying, but the VA is telling the truth. Congressman Senator Vitter's office wants me to continue to give him a bullet point on everything that is wrong, and they want to come to this VA to verify. I say, why don't you give them the transcript from the trial and let them evaluate what Dr. Negi said when she said, no, I did not complete the application process. No, to this day, I have not told Virginia that I turned in an incomplete application. Why don't you send that to them? Instead of for me to have to give you questions that you say, well, those questions are in the court. We can't address them. They're not for you to address. They're not for you to address. They're for the VA to address. What they're going to say, Dr. Negi didn't really tell the truth when she said she turned in an incomplete application? When are people going to stop lying for her and the people start looking at the documents as they are? Virginia's claiming sovereignty. They put a bad doctor on the Louisiana veterans that are now dead. Had we known, my dad and my dad got sick, came to the VA on the wrong weekend, apparently, because she was here. She does everything on the weekends when nobody else is here. These cases were supposed to have gone to what is called in the VA a peer review. None of these cases ever gone to a peer review to see if she's handling them the proper way. They accepted that. The IG, what you might say in the Army, digged them for this, and they accepted it. None of these cases ever gone before peer review. Even with all the complaints, they never addressed them in this hospital. One more thing. In 2000, my father passed away in 2009. There are documents coming out of here in 2007 telling Congressman Alexander, then Congressman Alexander, Senator Landrieu, that my father was already dead, so they wouldn't do an investigation. All the way to Washington, D.C., Secretary Pete apologized for the death of my dad. He was there before Secretary Saseki took the job. Now here it is, back in 2007, 8, they're telling me my dad is dead and he's over there in ICU. So they won't do an investigation. All this kind of stuff has gone on for 9 years. I have to go to court. I'm still in court. I have to take 25 pounds of paperwork to the 5th Circuit to still continue to fight against injustice and corruption out of this VA. Something is wrong with that. You know, this place should be packed down the street. Everybody, if we was having a barbecue, it would be packed down the street for the 4th of July. My dad drove over 300 miles a day in World War II with ammunition and bombs on the truck, sometime in blackout conditions. He did his job. He got a Bronze Star. You don't get a Bronze Star by saying, give me one. You have to prove it. He proved it. And she proved that he wasn't worth it. That's what she tried to tell me by putting him in a storage room. And then they tried to say, well, she had nothing to do with it. All she did was move him out. She had a lot to do with it. She's still his patient. She didn't hand him off to another doctor. She just told a nurse to take him up the floor somewhere. I had to go find him. So, but I thank everyone for coming. Oh, Miss Gray.
This is my husband. Come on. Jesse Gray Jr. Born 1950, died February 26, 2013. We're married for 36 years. My husband was diagnosed with cancer. My husband was on the same floor and was right across the hall. She walked in nonchalantly one day and she said, "Oh, I think you got cancer." You never heard anything else from her. No follow-up, no nothing. My husband couldn't get the treatment that he needed here, so he begged him to go to Indiana, so he could live a little bit longer. Because evidently she refused to continue to treat him after he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital for 15 days, complaining of his back hurting. Okay, she discharged him from the hospital. He was on aspirin for, take an aspirin every day. She told him not to take the aspirin. We went out one night. My husband started complaining about chest pain. I told him, I said, I'm not going to bring you over here. I'm going to take you to Rapides General. When my husband got to Rapides General, they found that he had a mass on his spine. I saw the x-rays. A mass on his spine. They had to remove the mass at Rapides General. And if I hadn't got my husband to Rapides General, my husband would have died in the car because he had blood clots everywhere. Because she refused to continue to give him the aspirin. And then she walked out the room nonchalant. Well, I think you have cancer. Like I said, we never heard anything else. So, my husband was a veteran. He served in Vietnam. He was a heavy equipment driver. And this is the kind of treatment that's here. I can't imagine what the new presidents are going to do. They come from Afghanistan and everywhere else. This doctor is Dr. Negi, and we have records to prove everything. Not just out here in reality. My husband left me at 61 years old. That was too soon. That was too soon.
And this was days after Dr. Negi put him out on a Sunday. Thursday, he's having major surgery.
I had to rush him to Rapides General to have the surgery. They have the mass removed from the spine. The mass was just like this, like a tick holding on to something. But she couldn't see it. She sent him home after 15 days and said she couldn't find anything wrong. Now, if we really have to investigate, they have his records over at Rapides General to show that they removed the mass on the spine. If she had did what she was supposed to
just a concerned citizen. I'm a friend of Floyd Hamilton. I've been a friend for years. And, you know, it's just a shame. I used to be a military police officer at Camp Beauregard. I was in the 239th MP Company. To treat our veterans this way. And if it hadn't been for Moon Devon, Vance McAllister, Mary Landrew, and Dave Gratian, and Tony Brown, I don't think a lot of this stuff would have come to light. So he's been going through it for about 10 years now. So I hope all of y'all will try to help. God bless you.
That concludes our news conference for today, but we will continue this fight. We'll try to get everybody on board because it's important that everybody reach out. God veterans so much. We need to make sure that they're taken care of us. Thank you.
And if we need to come back one more time to make sure people get the word out, now that we have everyone here to expose it, it's like the internet. Let it get off the internet, it can't be true. Now that you guys are telling it, it is true, and it's always been true. The truth has always been here, but the truth has not always been out in the open. And I thank you all for that. Thank you.